Greetings everybody. We're now having a look at EUR/USD, and at this point in time we are on the monthly chart, as you guys can see. And in regards to this monthly chart, we had this particular M structure over here. Just bear with me. We had this M structure at this point, which has a neckline at this point, more or less, right? Also, we had this level being a very strong level of resistance, as you guys can see. And to add to that, we see that price has broken to the bottom side of both that neckline as well as that resistance. It was actually support at first, but it's now resistance, right? And the anticipation at this point in time is for the market to push further down, or rather further up, to test perhaps both structures. And at that point, I believe we should be looking for potential selling opportunities. And that is because, guys, when it comes to M structures, as I always say, we want to see price break the neckline to the bottom side and then head back to the neckline to test it. And at this point, we normally look for potential selling opportunities, as the anticipation is for the market to push further down, right? So what I'm going to do now is first add the neckline to that M structure. Just bear with me, and just bear in mind that necklines are areas and not so much an actual line. So we can say that more or less this is the neckline of that M structure. And number two, I'm going to add that resistance level as well, because it is extremely important. Just bear with me everybody while I add that resistance level as well. And just remember that resistance levels are just the same as necklines. They are levels and areas and not so much actual lines, right? So we can safely say at this point in time that this entire region here is where we will be looking for potential selling opportunities, this region over here, right? So the next thing that I'm going to do in regards to the monthly chart of EUR/USD is utilize the Fibonacci retracement tool. We just rather want to have a look in terms of whether those two areas align with any of the key numbers that we have on the Fibonacci retracement tool. So just bear with me everybody. Let's see. So we can see more or less that this particular resistance area aligns with the 23.6% Fibonacci retracement level, and the neckline of this M structure aligns with the 38.2% Fibonacci retracement levels. To be honest, I don't really like these two levels, because they are not as strong as the 50% as well as the 61.8% retracement levels. Nonetheless, they are strong levels, and they add to the confluence and confirmation that we should be looking for in as far as looking for selling opportunities go in this particular instance of EUR/USD, right? So I'm just going to delete this tool, right? But that is confluence, guys, because we can see that both areas align with the key, or rather align with key numbers that we have on the Fibonacci retracement tool. So from here, what I'm going to do is head down to the weekly chart. However, before I do so, let me just also point out that if you look at these last three candles, they all have candlesticks which are bearish and have long lower wicks, right? And that's telling me that they are rejecting at this particular level, and we might potentially get a reversal to around any of these two areas that I just spoke about, right? So here we are on the weekly chart, guys, and let's have a look. So what do we see on the weekly chart that we should be paying attention to? On the weekly chart, if you look closely, guys, we can see that we had at this level, let me actually draw that properly. We had an inverted head, we had a head and shoulders pattern. Sorry, not a head and shoulders pattern. It's actually an M formation. It's an overextended M formation in this region, which has a neckline at that level, right? It's an overextended M formation, with the first leg being higher than the second leg, right? And we saw price breaking to the bottom side of that neckline and then heading back to test that neckline. So we should have looked for potential selling opportunities at that point, as the expectation or the anticipation is for the market to push further down, right? So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to add a neckline to that structure. I just hope my lines are not too confusing. I'm just going to make this one a different color so that it stands out from the existing two lines that I've already added to this particular chart. So I'm just going to make it a slightly brighter color. Let's say let's say an orange. Okay, there we go. Right. So let's see. So this is the neckline of, as I said, guys, this overextended M structure, right? As you guys can see, right? So we just need to keep that in the back of our minds as we move forward, right? So what else do we see in regards to the weekly chart of Euro USD? Another thing that I see, which is also very much interesting, is that as much as we have this overextended M structure over here, we also have an overextended W structure at this point, right, which has a neckline at that point, right? I hope that makes sense, guys, what I'm actually drawing, right? So we have a bit of a dilemma actually if you look at this entire area over here, right? Why do I say so? That is because number one, we have that overextended M structure, right? And number two, we have an overextended W structure, and they have necklines that are more or less in the same area, which means that it's a bit risky in as far as buying or selling in this region, right? It's a bit risky in as far as buying or selling in this region, right? However, we will head down to the smaller time frames to see if we can get away with this particular structure over here, right? Anyway, let's proceed. Let's have a look. So what else do we see on this particular chart that we should be paying attention to? I don't see much at this point in time, so what I will do is head down to the daily chart. In fact, before we head down to the daily chart, let me just actually go back to the weekly chart. I just want to add an opposing neckline as well, which is the neckline of that overextended W structure. Just bear with me. There we go. Right, I just hope my lines are not too confusing, guys, but I'm just putting all these lines so that we don't get confused as we head down to the smaller time frames. So here we are on the daily time frame. All right, just to recap a bit, remember guys, I spoke about this overextended M structure, right? And I also spoke about this overextended W structure, and they both have necklines that are in more or less the same area. I hope that is clear, right? So the first thing that I'm going to do in regards to the daily chart of Euro USD is actually add my channel. Just bear with me 1 second. All right, so when I add our daily channel, let's see, how would we add our daily channel in regards to Euro USD? Let's have a look. Let's see. I would add my daily channel in this manner. Let's have a look. There we go. And here we go, more or less. Just bear with me, guys. And there we go, right? I just want to make sure that our lines are as accurate as possible, just to ensure that at the end of the day, when we do ultimately execute, our execution is also as accurate as possible, right? So there we go. So here we are on the daily chart. So what else do we see on the daily chart that we should be paying attention to, right? On the daily chart, I can see that number one, we have a market that's going downwards, as you guys can see. And another thing that I see is that we have this inverted head and shoulders pattern, as you guys can see, which has a neckline at this point, more or less, right? And this is the left hand shoulder, this is the head, and this is the right shoulder, right? And as much as we have that, we have another dilemma, guys, in that we have this overextended M structure over here, which also has a neckline at more or less the same area as the neckline of the W structure. Can you guys see that? Anyway, let's proceed. So what I'm going to do is actually add necklines to those structures. Just bear with me. Let's see. I'm just going to add the neckline over here. Now I'll also make it a different color. I'll just make it a blue. Let's have a look. Here we are, more or less, right? And I will add another neckline to that other structure, which is the overextended M structure. There we go. There we go, more or less. You can see the neckline is here, more or less, right? So as I said, guys, this structure over here that we have, just bear with me, the structure that we have over here, right? In fact, these two structures that we have, which are both almost sharing the same neckline, or which have necklines in the same area, they're very much similar to those other two structures that I spoke about, which are these structures, right? Where we have an overextended M structure and an overextended W structure, which both have necklines in more or less the same area. They're very identical. They're very similar, rather. Anyway, let's proceed. So how do we get around this dilemma, right? Similarly, we will have to go down to the smaller time frames to see if we can actually get away with executing trades on the smaller time frames. To add to this, what else do we see on the daily chart that we should be paying attention to? Another thing that I see on the daily chart is that we have a liquidity candlestick at that point, at that level, which tells us that the market needs to grab that liquidity at one point or another. Similarly, we also have one at this point as well, which needs to be grabbed by the market. So the market needs to head down to that level as well to grab that liquidity. So what else do we see, guys, in regards to this particular chart of Euro USD? I can see that we have another one at this point, which is a liquidity candlestick, right? Yeah, so just to go back to this head and shoulders pattern, as well as this overextended M structure, at this point I don't see any selling or buying opportunities for that matter. So I will have to go down to the H4 chart to see if we can actually get away with making any buying or selling decisions. Just bear with me, guys, while I fix my channel. Let's see. Let's have a look. Just want to make sure that everything's in order. Just bear with me, guys. Okay, that's fine, and that's fine. There we go. Right. So we're now on the H4 chart, guys, and on the daily chart I spoke about how we have this M structure, as well as that head and shoulders pattern that I spoke about, right, which both have necklines in more or less the same area. So what do we see in regards to the H4 chart that we should be paying attention to? I'm just going to zoom in a bit. Let's see, what else do we see on this chart that we should be paying attention to? On the H4 chart, the first thing that I'm going to do is actually add my H4 channel. Let's see, how would I add my H4 channel in regards to the H4 chart? I would do it in this manner. Let's see. I would do it in this manner. Just bear with me, guys, just bear with me. There goes the first line, and there goes the second line of that channel, right? So here we are on the, as I said, H4 channel, or rather the H4 chart, right? And as I said, guys, we're looking at this inverted head and shoulders pattern, right? So what else do we see on this chart that we should be paying attention to? Another thing that is also very much interesting is the fact that we have this M structure over here, which has a neckline at that point. Price broke the neckline to the bottom side, and it looks as if the market will head up to retest that line, as you guys can see, right? To add to that, we also have at this level, right, we have an overextended W structure, as you guys can see, which has a neckline at that point, right? And as I said, guys, when it comes to W structures, we want to see price break the neckline to the upside and then come back to the bottom side, and this is where we would look for further buying opportunities, right? So just remember that in regards to the daily chart, we are in a downward trend, but as much as that's the case, the H4 chart at this point in time seems to be upward sloping, in my humble opinion, and we can also see that, as I said, the neckline of this W structure has been broken to the upside. What I would love to see actually happen is for price to push further up and to come back to retest the neckline, right? And at this point, we might potentially look for buying decisions, right? As I said, if price comes back to this level, we might potentially look for buying opportunities at this point, and our take profit, I believe, should be at least this level where we have the neckline of this M structure, right? But in the back of your minds, guys, we need to keep the fact that we have this pattern going, right, which has a neckline at this point, and we have this M structure which has a neckline at this point as well, right? So in conclusion, in as far as looking for buying opportunities go at this point in time and on the H4 chart, what I would do is I would wait for price to push slightly up, right, and to come back to the neckline, and at this point I would potentially look for buying opportunities to around this point. This should be my take profit area, and that is because it's the neckline, it's more or less the neckline of this M structure. And number two, if we were to zoom out a bit, this entire area as well is also the neckline of that overextended M structure, right? So that's my analysis really. I just actually want to add a neckline to that smaller overextended W structure as well. Let's see. Just bear with me. There we go, right? So as I said, guys, in conclusion, let me just draw that one more time. In conclusion, I would love to see price push further up and then come back to retest the neckline of this W structure, and at this point I will look for potential buying opportunities, and if I do get a very nice entry at this point, my take profit will be the zone over here, which is the neckline, which is more or less the neckline of this M structure, as well as the neckline of this huge overextended W structure that I spoke about on the daily chart, right? So that is it, guys, in as far as my analysis goes of Euro USD. Peace out.